Green Party leader Zack Polanski made his first major speech about the economy this week, and here's a key quote. "This sustained project of privatisation and deregulation turned Britain from a place which made things that people need to a place which made money for people who own things." Now, regular followers of bonkers economics will know that I take issue with the concept that anybody apart from the government can actually make money. I think what Zack is referring to here is the accumulation, extraction of money from the economy by people who already have plenty of it. So we do sort of know what he means, and he's quite right to point to the way in which the British economy has been hollowed out. The industrial base has been hollowed out over the last 30 or 40 years and replaced by financial activities. And similarly, he goes on to say that the very basics, the things we rely on to build the foundations of a good life, they've been taken out of our hands, sold for profit, and then sold or rented back to us at crushing rates. And that's the privatisation he's talking about, the way in which the things that we rely upon are now in private hands and we pay far more for them than we otherwise would. Anyway, a picture tells 1,000 words, and this speech is about 4,000 words long. So here I've got 4 images, which I think will provide some sort of insight into a lot of what's being said here. And first of all, we've got this one here, which shows the exact point that Zack is making, because this is the shape of the UK economy back in fact, 1950, and here it is more recently, 2015. And what you can see here is exactly what he's talking about. This is the industrial, manufacturing, productive part of the economy, and it was pretty substantial, the biggest part of the economy then, and now it has shrunk significantly. And here at the other end, this is where people are extracting, they're making money out of money, so to speak. This is where the housing market, financial services, that sort of thing are. And it's all quite small back then, and now it's grown to be a very big part of the economy indeed. So that's the basic picture he's talking about, and we can see that here, which is a picture of the economy more or less today. And again, we can see at this end, here are these extractive activities, what he refers to as people who are making money by owning things. And here down this end, we've got the people who are making things that we want and need, and these are much smaller activities. And there you can see agriculture on the left, which is incredibly thin, and it's worth noting that we import nearly half our food now. So that's those two, and then over here a picture we've seen quite a few times, and I make no apology for showing it to you yet again because it is pretty stark, and this is the privatisation that Zack Polanski is talking about, and this is water in fact, and here in blue is the amount of money the government got when it sold the water industry, the English water industry, and here in this sort of green colour is the amount of money that the companies have paid themselves in profits, in dividends, since they bought those companies. And then finally there's this image here which sort of stitches the whole thing together in point of fact, because what this shows is the UK balance of payments, imports against exports, over a long period since 1950 to today. And what the little black block at the top shows is that up until halfway through that period, to the mid-1980s, Britain was just about in the black in terms of imports and exports. And then in the period since the mid-1980s, well, it's been all red ink, and we've been importing far, far more than we've been exporting. And that has to be paid for. And that takes us straight back to the water industry and the other privatised industries, and in fact the entire privatisation programme. Because what's happened there is that the government has had to create assets that can be sold. Because all this red ink, that's paid for by selling things. The UK is doing what anyone would do when their income is less than their expenditure. They sell whatever they've got. And a privatised water company or electricity company or something of that sort can be sold. It can be sold off, and we know that the majority of the privatised industries are in fact now foreign owned. So the whole thing sort of comes together when we understand this. And what is the solution? Well, the solution, of course, is to rebase the economy in a way which actually works for real people, allows people to create wealth in their lives so we don't have to import so much, and makes it quite a bit harder for people to cream off the money that people need to create wealth in their lives. And a lot of it ends up in foreign hands, as we've said. So rip-off is hardly the word for it. What these images show, and what I think Zack Polanski is saying in his speech, is that we've been sold down the increasingly polluted river, and that the economy is now structured in such a way as to make it much easier for the wealthy to accumulate more money for themselves, and much, much harder for ordinary people to produce the real wealth and the things and the services that they need to improve the quality of their lives. And it's going to require a real significant structural change to make anything very different. And that, I think, is also the point, that the sort of tinkering around the edges that the current government and that previous governments may have attempted to do a little bit of, that's not going to cut it. We need something really quite radical and alternative. And in this speech, I think Zack Polanski is beginning to flesh out what that could look like.